everybody, this is Michelle from Virtual Hand Care, your online hand expert and virtual hand therapist. So we're going to go over 4 exercises to help you get your supination back. So what is supination? That is when we turn our forearm palm up. So some people get supination and pronation mixed up. Think about holding a bowl of soup. You would have your hand up, typically, unless you're holding it down in pronation, but most of us would hold a bowl of soup in supination. So that's one way that you can remember which one is which, supination or pronation. When we rotate our hand, the only bone that is moving in our forearm is actually our radius. That is this bone right here. That bone is the one that's rotating up and rotating down when we move into supination and pronation. The ulna, which is this longer bone, that's the one that's a part of this bone right here, part of the olecranon. And then this is the ulna all the way along this side of our forearm. That is fixed. That doesn't move when we do supination or pronation. So most of the time, if you work on that radius, moving up and down, either down by the elbow or down by the wrist, you can get that motion going. And that's what I'm going to show you today. So the first exercise that I want to show you is an active motion exercise. And this one is a little bit different than just sitting there trying to turn the hand up and down just to get supination, which you've probably already tried that by now. So if you have something that you can hold on to, like a highlighter or something that doesn't have any weight, go grab that now. So I have a highlighter here and I'm going to go ahead and hold on to it while I'm working on supination. And you might be wondering, why should I hang on to something when I'm doing supination? A lot of people will compensate when they're trying to work on supination. They are trying to twist that wrist and use the fingers and try everything possible to try to get that forearm to rotate. And it can really cause a lot of irritation and soreness of the fingers and cramping and pain on this side of the wrist. So what you want to do is just simply grab it and then work on your forearm rotation that way. What I also recommend is to just take your supination in one step, meaning instead of working on full rotation all the way up and all the way down, just work on going from a neutral position, which is where the thumb is facing up. You don't need to stick the thumb up, but where the thumb is up, pointing this way, and then you're just working on supination that way. And then holding it a couple of seconds. And what you'll notice is that as you're working on this, you probably won't have as much pain or soreness on this side of your wrist. And you also may notice that your fingers aren't really doing a lot of the work either, and that you're truly getting just forearm rotation. And so you want to do that about 5 to 10 times, and I would hold that end range. So that means hold as far as you can go, but using your own muscle power, right? You're using your own ability to try to rotate that forearm up as far as you can go. And if you only can go just a little bit, that's okay. That's your starting point. Okay, so for exercise number 2, this one is gonna look more like a stretch. So this is where you're gonna take your other hand to try to help stretch that forearm. Now, most people wanna just take their arm and just twist it, right? You're down here trying to twist and turn and twist that forearm, and it doesn't feel too good, does it? Well, it's really important to make sure that you are truly just stretching the forearm. Remember our skeleton arm? Remember where I said that the radius is what moves up and down and rotates, right? Well, if you're holding down here into your hand and your wrist, that's a really mobile joint. Our wrist has a lot of degrees of movement. So if you are stretching, trying to stretch the forearm and you're placing all of your pressure and torque on your wrist, you could be really torquing on the ligaments that attach from the wrist and the forearm, and not really truly getting this radius to rotate. So we're gonna put our hands more onto the radius to stretch. So for this one, what you wanna do is take your other hand, come up underneath, and you're gonna kind of almost, cup that forearm and make sure that you've got your fingers on your radius. Then what you're gonna do is you're going to use your fingers and your palm to rotate and try to stretch. Make sure that your shoulder is relaxed as you're doing this as well. And make sure your elbow is down at your side. And you wanna rotate and stretch as far as you can go, holding a good, 5, 10, 15, maybe even 20 seconds. And hold that, and then just relax back up to neutral. You don't need to go all the way over into rotation, because when you go from one extreme to the other, that can hurt. Now, another way that you can do that same stretch, but just place your hands a little differently on the forearm, is to come at it more, instead of coming around and cupping the forearm, you can come more in the front and then cup more on top and rotate this way. And it looks like this, where you come on top and then rotating this way. Notice when I'm doing my forearm stretches that my hand is nice and relaxed and my fingers are nice and relaxed. I'm not twisting and torquing on my wrist or my forearm to do this. If you feel like you have a hard time with relaxing your fingers, go ahead and grab that marker or something really light so that you can truly just focus on stretching the radius. Okay, so now we're gonna do exercise number 3. Now we're gonna move up into the forearm a little bit more, because often we spend so much time trying to stretch down here that we kind of neglect up the muscle and the radius here. Because again, remember, our radius and our ulna, these are long bones and they go all the way down into the elbow. So we do want to make sure that we're targeting different areas where it can be kind of stuck. So remember, the radius follows along the thumb. Follow all the way along to where you get to the musculature, so the muscle, the meat of our forearm. And that's all right in here. And you want to kind of just do a little bit of movement with that muscle group until you can kind of get down a little bit below to where you feel more bony. Now, if you have a lot of muscle, it can be kind of hard to get down to there. But you want to move that musculature around, kind of just massage that a little bit and kind of cup and kind of pinch that muscle until you can feel more of the bone. And that's the radius that's right underneath all of that muscle. And what you want to do is work on just kind of moving that around. Now I'm going to show you as I relax and I'm moving around, what happens is as you're moving the radius, you're actually moving the forearm. So before we were stretching down here, now we're going to come up in here and try to work on getting a little bit of stretching and a little bit of movement. Once you feel like you get a good hold on that radius and you really can help rotate over, hold that for a good 5 to 10 seconds or longer. And then you want to relax it and make sure you just relax back to about a good neutral position, because it can be kind of sore again to rotate all the way over. Okay, our final exercise is a little bit of a fun exercise. And so you might want to get a ball of some kind for this next exercise. So I have a little Spider-Man ball, medium-sized ball here. You can use a basketball. You could use something smaller if you want. But a fun little exercise to work on getting that rotation is by placing the ball in between both hands and working on rotating palm up and down with the ball. Now, when you're doing this one, do make sure that your hands are completely flat on the ball, and your good hand is going to help try to guide that bad hand on top and underneath. And you want to make sure when you're doing this exercise that the elbow stays bent at your side, because if you bring the arms straight out and you're working on rotation, you're actually working more on the shoulder here. So bring the elbow down where you can truly work on forearm supination and pronation. And then you can do a lot of other exercises with the ball to try to get supination and pronation. And one other tip is if you're really noticing you're still having a lot of pain on this side of the wrist or the forearm when you are working on rotation, there are ways that you can tape the wrist, or you can use a brace, something like a bullseye brace. I have another video on the bullseye brace and a little more about it, and I'll link that here and also in the description below. And I will leave a link where you can find this bullseye brace. But if you're having a hard time with doing forearm rotation because you really are having a lot of pain on this side of your wrist, it might benefit you to get some kind of a brace or a tape to help position that wrist in a little bit of a better, more comfortable position so that you can work on getting your forearm rotation. Let me know if this video helps you. If you do, please give me a thumbs up and like this video, and don't forget to subscribe to Virtual Hand Care. Thanks for watching.